Hello YouTube, welcome to Daydreams and Veggies. I'm Megan, and today on my channel I wanted to do something that's always been interesting to me and that I wanted to talk about. And I wanted to show my collection here of all the books that I have on conspiracy theories and unsolved mysteries. I'm freaking obsessed, and I know a lot of people on YouTube do this, and I wanted to kind of do one about someone that I haven't really heard anybody talk about that I thought was really interesting. So I was reading one of my books and I came across the disappearance of Lord Lucan, and I thought it'd be really interesting to talk about because I hadn't heard of the story before. So let's get started. So Richard John Bingham was born on December 18th, 1934 in London, England. His dad was the 6th Earl of Lucan, so they were a very wealthy, high status, high class family. They had connections to British royalty, and even though on the outside it kind of seemed like they had it all, Lord Lucan did not have the best childhood, and that is because after he was born, his mom had some health issues, and she actually had a blood clot in her lung. So for the first few years of his life, he was primarily raised by a nursery maid. And then at this point, the World War II was kind of about to start, and his parents thought he and his siblings would be safer if they were sent away and out of England. So they were in Wales, and then they went to Canada, and then they went to the United States for a little bit, and they just stayed with a guardian. And this really impacted him. He wanted to be home with his parents in England, and when they finally came back to England after the war, it was kind of war-torn, and he developed a lot of nightmares, and he actually ended up having to see a psychiatrist to help him kind of deal with some of his childhood because it wasn't happy for him. So a couple years later, he goes off to college, and it is here where he learns how to gamble. And this is really important and really central to the story. So he learns how to gamble, he falls in love with gambling, and then after that, he ends up joining the British Army for a couple of years. So at this point in the timeline, it's 1955. He's back from the army, and he ends up getting a job at a bank where he meets this stockbroker who's really into backgammon, and that kind of becomes his gambling game of choice. So he and his friend go off a lot, do a lot of gambling. At this point, he's starting to lose a lot. So he's really good at what he does, but his losses kind of started to outweigh his winnings, but he was still winning. And he actually, in around 1960, quit the bank, and because he was like, why am I going to work at this bank and make the same amount of money that in a year that I can make at one night at the table? So that was his logic in leaving his job at the bank and kind of becoming a professional gambler, if you will. That doesn't seem like it's going to end well. So this brings us to the next important event in his life, and that is in 1963, early 1963, he meets his future wife, Veronica Duncan. They get married on November 20th, 1963. Kind of a quick romance. So things were kind of okay for a while. Lord Lucan was actually pretty famous and well known in Britain. He actually was offered to screen test for the role of James Bond. So this guy was influential, and he tried to get her interested in some of the things that he liked to do, like the gambling and hunting and fishing and shooting and golf, and it just really wasn't her thing. And it just seems to me that they had very opposite interests. So like I said, Lord Lucan was a professional gambler, and that earned him the nickname Lucky. So a lot of people called him Lucky Lucan. And even though they called him that, as I said, his losses really tended to outweigh his winnings, and there was a lot of financial strain. Additionally, after his second and third child was born, Veronica started developing some postnatal depression, and so she was seeing a psychiatrist, and she was on medication for that. And just a combination of their financials, his gambling, her depression and anxiety, it put a really big strain on their marriage. In 1972, Lord Lucan moved out, and they officially separated. So there was an early attempt for them to reconcile, and when that didn't work out, Lord Lucan's primary desire was to get full custody of their 3 children, and he was willing to do whatever it took to get that custody. He often spied on Veronica. He hired private investigators to spy on her, trying to find anything they could to use against her to prove that she was not fit to have custody of the children. And he went as far as to trying to get her doctors to turn against her and tell the courts that she was mad. And thankfully that didn't work. The doctors were like, she has depression and anxiety. That doesn't mean she's not fit to be a mother. And he started to get really frustrated because he really wanted to get full custody of his children. So there was the nanny. Lillian Jenkins was the first nanny that they had. And Lord Lucan ended up firing her and trying to make it look like, oh, nobody can work with Veronica. She's crazy. She's mad. The nanny can't even deal with her anymore. So they kind of went through a lot of different nannies. And Lord Lucan was just trying to turn against his wife in any way that he could. There was one nanny that ended up stepping forward. Her name was Stefania. And she said that Veronica apparently told her that Lord Lucan was abusive and that he had hit Veronica with a cane and had even pushed her down the stairs at one point. And that's what Stefania said. Stefania was fired in 1973, and that's when Lord Lucan and the courts approached her and said she had to give the children to Lucan, and so she did. And Lucan tried to keep them and tried to have his case against Veronica, but there really wasn't a solid case against her. So this really began a really, really terrible, bitter custody battle between Lord Lucan and Veronica over the children. So there are a lot of other nannies that came in and out, a lot of them reporting strange things kind of happening with Lucan, him continuing to spy on his wife, one of them, he took her out for drinks and befriended her just to try to get her to get information and insider information on Veronica. So he was very cunning, manipulative, and really desperate. Following a series of all these nannies coming in and out, Sandra Rivet came to be the nanny in 1974. So at this point, after he wasn't able to get the kids from Veronica, he was very devastated. He had lost a lot of money hiring lawyers and court fees and things like that, and kind of going through that whole process, in addition to his debts from gambling. So he was kind of in a very dark spot, and that's when something terrible happened. On November 7th, 1974, Sandra Rivet, the nanny, was at the Lucan's home with Veronica. She had put the younger kids to bed, and around 8:55 p.m. asked Veronica if she wanted a cup of tea. At that point, she went down into the basement kitchen, was bludgeoned to death with a bandaged lead pipe, and then stuffed into a bag. According to Lady Lucan, she went downstairs to see what was taking Sandra so long to get the tea, and that's when she saw what had happened. And she started to scream, and the attacker apparently told her to shut up. She says at that point she recognized her husband's voice, and she fought with him, getting some injuries herself. And she was able to escape the house when she promised him that she would help him escape as long as they kind of stayed in the house, let things calm down, and let her injuries heal. She was able to go into the bathroom and escape while he was with the children. And that is Lady Veronica's account. When she escaped, she went and informed the police, who then went on a wide search to try to find where Lucan went. And they were able to trace him to the friend's house that he had driven to, and they had no idea what was going on. When he had come in, they didn't know that he was running away from what had happened. They eventually found his car, and inside the car they did find a piece of the pipe that had traces of Veronica and Sandra's blood on it, as well as some of Veronica's hair. But Lucan was not in the car. He completely abandoned it. His house, everything was there, his wallet, his passport, everything kind of looking untouched. They did find Lucan. He wrote 2 letters to his brother-in-law, saying that it was a night of unbelievable coincidence. So Lucan wrote that he was innocent of the crime, but there was just so much coincidence and circumstantial evidence that people were going to think it was him. and that's why he had fled. And I'm really interested to see your guys' opinion on this. This was a really intense public case in Britain, and to this day, no one knows where Lord Lucan went, or if he was truly responsible for Sandra Rivet's death. Lady Lucan believes that not only is he responsible for Sandra Rivet's death, but that his intentions were to kill her.
I only gave evidence about the attack on me, and my husband certainly was my attacker.
Do you believe also that he killed Sandra Rivet?
I think so, yes.
She believes that due to the child custody case and his desperate desire to get his children back, that he was really willing to do whatever it took to get them, including murdering his wife. She thinks that because the basement kitchen was dark, that when Sandra went into the kitchen to get the tea, that Lucan mistakenly thought that it was her coming down the stairs and was trying to kill her, and then accidentally killed the nanny instead. They had a similar height and build, so she said it would have been could have been easy for him to kind of mistake and kill the wrong person. So she believes that he did it. His son came out and said that he's not sure. He doesn't fully believe what happened. Or his mom's account was truly what happened.
Court this morning declared Richard John Bingham, my father, known to most people as Lord Lucan, as to be dead for all legal purposes from 1981. This does not mean that he or any other person can be will escape prosecution for the murder of Sandra Rivet in 1974, should the police wish to raise a prosecution. I want to take this time to applaud the efforts of Mr. Neil Berriman to secure justice for his mother, our beloved family nanny. We extend our sympathy to him and his broader family. That sympathy is well grounded in that neither their family nor our family know at whose hand this unfortunate lovely lady died in 1974. Over and above that, our family has no idea how our own father, or my father, met his own end, whether he did so at his own hand or the hand of others on that fateful evening. It's a mystery, and it may well remain that way forever.
And there are still a lot of people who are unsure. There was an inquest where they found him guilty, even though a lot of his friends and family members and some people in Britain do not think he was guilty. Some people think that he was just caught in something that was out of his control and was that unbelievable coincidence and that he had to run. Some people think that he fled to different countries and was whisked abroad. There are a lot of theories of people who say that they've spotted him in different countries, although the ones who have found these people who have said that they're him, were never confirmed to be him. But there were a lot of sightings of him throughout the years. And it wasn't until 2016 when a death certificate was officially issued, so that way his son could become the next Earl of Lucan and inherit his title. So I really would like to know your opinions on this case. I personally believe that Lord Lucan, there is a lot of evidence against him as to have committed the murder, because there was no forced entry into the house. So I believe that the attacker had to be somebody that had access to the house, maybe had keys to the house, someone who knew Veronica and Sandra and were able to get into the house without breaking into it. And the fact that the piece of the lead pipe was found in his car, and the fact that he disappeared, to me it's really interesting because he was so desperate to get custody of his children. I'm surprised that he would disappear if he truly wasn't guilty, just because I think he would stop at nothing to get custody of his children. So I think him disappearing could be a sign of his guilt, or it could be a sign of him being afraid of getting killed himself, and he thought it would be best to disappear. And no one knows exactly what happened to him. There are a lot of theories saying that he went to different countries, that he was whisked abroad. His wife and the police and detectives really strange theory that he was killed and fed to tigers. And yeah, I don't know if I believe that one. But I think a lot of people believe that he committed suicide or he was killed by others. So unfortunately, no one will ever really truly know what happened that night. Lady Veronica stands by her account of the events, but a lot of people think that maybe it was a coincidence, or that maybe Lord Lucan could even still be alive today. It's a really high-profile case in Britain, and it's just one of those things that will probably be a mystery forever. What's sad is that Sandra's family never got true justice, and if Lady Veronica account is true, it's really sad that, you know, potentially Sandra Rivet could have died just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to provide a lot of links in the description to the news stories and clips that I inserted, as well as other sources where you can read more on the case. There's a lot to talk about this case, but I couldn't fit it all in one video. And if you like this content and you want more, please subscribe, as well as let me know in the comments if there's any other interesting cases that a lot of other YouTubers haven't talked about yet and you want to hear about. I'm going to continue to look at my books and find something new for you guys. And all my links are going to be in the description below as well. I have a main channel that I run with my friend Sarah called Vloggin Veggies. So if you're interested in checking that out, that'll also be in the description. Just everything's going to be in there. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a really great day. Bye!